Hello and welcome to another episode of the NBA Outlet presented by OTGBasketball.com. Make sure you follow OTG on Twitter at OTG Basketball. Also hit that subscribe button. I'm your host, Nick Fay. With me as always, Kory Waldron. What's up, Kory?
Not much, Nick. I'm snowed in. And the best thing to do on a snow day, in my opinion, is do another episode of the NBA Outlet.
Yes, sir. A lot to talk about in NBA Fight Week. You know, plenty of fights going around to talk about this week. More Cavs talk. We'll get to that. Low-key disappointing team, but we're going to start off with some positive news, and that's Anthony Davis. Past 4 games, 39 points per game, 13 rebounds per game, 2 blocks per game, and on 60% from the field. What are your thoughts on the way AD's playing?
Boston fans are screaming for trades. I haven't seen a fan base go after a player like the Celtics are with Anthony Davis. They had posters at the game last night. I know that this morning a couple of Celtic fans of mine were texting me, asking me what was the possibilities of them trading for Anthony Davis. He's killing it. It even made me rethink my top 5 of current NBA players, and Anthony Davis is in that top 5 without question. He's been incredible. 93 points in 2 games. I can't remember the last time I saw a guy drop 45 and 45 in a row, especially a guy like Anthony Davis. And he has another game tonight against the Atlanta Hawks, which is not a very good team. So I wouldn't be surprised if he put up 30-plus again tonight.
Yeah, honestly, and the shots that Anthony Davis is hitting are ridiculous. He's shooting like step-back fadeaways over everybody, and when he's healthy, like I think it's never been a question, is he really one of those top 5 players? But the problem is he's just never consistently healthy. This year, he's getting a little bit more healthy. Having DeMarcus Cousins take some of the load off probably helps too. So where would you think he ranks right now in terms of your top 5?
I think I would put him 5th.
Yeah.
I would put him 5th. You know, the top 3 is between – LeBron, Durant, and Curry. And then I think 4th would be, probably a healthy Kawhi. And I think he pushes Westbrook out because he plays both sides of the ball. He's obviously a tremendous rebounder. His jump shot, if you think about Anthony Davis from his rookie season, the progression of his jump shot is truly incredible because this was a guy who couldn't shoot anything. And we've seen him now become a knockdown shooter. And for his height, that is like literally unfair. It's not fair a guy like him, or even Cousins for that matter, can shoot the way they do.
And the fact is he's still so young, so his jump shot's only going to get better. And I think not only is his shooting improved, but just his understanding of the game. You see him make a lot smarter decisions out there. For me, I think I would agree. I think he'd be top 5 this season. I'd probably have James Harden in my top 5 right now because Kawhi's been out. But, Davis is one of those dominating players, and there's still a lot of room for him to get better. I'm excited to see what he can do. And if the Pelicans get in the playoffs, they're not a team you necessarily want to face with a player like AD.
No, and they showed it last night when they beat the Celtics. The Celtics are a very good basketball team. But the issue is if you don't have, bigs or enough scoring to keep up with Davis and Cousins, they're just going to bully you all game because realistically, you can only limit those. Like there's certain players that you can't stop, right? There's guys you can only limit. Cousins and Davis are 2 guys that you cannot stop, but you can limit. And the Celtics, they have a tough time stopping bigs because Al Horford is their biggest guy in the team.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, who in the league can really match up with AD? You look at somebody like Porzingis on the Knicks and you think, oh, maybe he could do a better job because he's as lanky, but it really didn't matter because he dropped 45. So I don't know if you can even, limit this guy when he's on fire.
No, you'd have to be really physical. I mean, obviously the Warriors are like the dream team, but, at least Draymond can be a little bit physical with those guys, but even still, there's a huge height advantage on Draymond.
Yeah, and he's had some big games in the past against the Warriors too. So, but if you're the Celtics, are you willing to give up Jason Tatum for AD?
It's funny. One of the texts I got was about would you trade Al Horford and Jason Tatum for Anthony Davis with I think like a draft pick. Yeah, I think I would. I personally I think I would kind of try and flip out Jaylen Brown for Jason Tatum, only because I just kind of like Tatum a little bit more so far because this is one of the best rookie campaigns I've seen. Recent history. But it's tough to get rid of a young player for Davis. But at the end of the day, you get Anthony Davis, the Celtics are the best team in the East.
Yeah. I think you look at it and the fact is I agree with you. I think I try to put Jaylen Brown in there. Maybe even I'm willing to give up Marcus Smart, Terry Rozier, whoever else they want. I don't want to give up Tatum, but if I have to, if that's the deal breaker, I'm going to give him up because like we've said, AD can be a top 5 player. You add him to a team with Kyrie Irving, you're set for the next 10 years to be guaranteed a top 4 seed in the East and plenty of Eastern Conference championship games and finals appearances.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And the fact that he would be under, not that I want to throw shade at Monty Williams or Nmejenca, he probably had the best head coach he's had too, and
Yeah,
the Celtics defense would become big time if you had Anthony Davis probably playing a small ball five,
exactly.
which
And
is
in
not
some
even really small ball.
in some scenario where they keep Al Horford and they have him, like they could be looking at a lineup in the next season with Kyrie, Gordon Hayward, AD, and Al Horford, and then whoever they get to keep between Tatum and Brown. So a lot of possibilities. Celtics have plenty of assets. Definitely want to keep an eye on that. But I don't know if the Pelicans are going to be willing to do it anymore. I think they might have seen enough from this team that they know they get in the playoffs, they can give somebody a tough first round.
No, they definitely can. They're not a team that I want to face, especially when those two guys are clicking. And for what it's worth, the supporting cast has been better.
Yep.
Etuan Moore has become more of a consistent shooter, and even though Rondo doesn't always get the minutes, we know that Rondo does have a switch that he turns on. Last night he played one of his better games against his old Celtics team. I think Rondo just has to be able to get up for a game, and in the playoffs, as seen last year with the Chicago Bulls, Rondo gets up for big games.
Yeah. And I mean, the Pelicans are a team that could make a trade at the deadline, add a versatile wing piece. I think that's something they could use, maybe some more shooting. But like you said, some of the guys stepping up, Drew Holiday starting to find his rhythm, and that's important for them too. But let's talk about some more Western Conference fun, and that's the Rockets and the Clippers. So Chris Paul reunion, everything's a dandy. Then next thing you know, some chipper on the court. Blake runs and D'Antoni, CP3 and Blake are going at it. Ariza rips Blake's pants. Ariza's talking mad trash to the bench. Next thing you know, after the game, the State Farm crew rolls up on the Clippers locker room. What are your thoughts on this?
The TNT crew had a hilarious reaction to this, where Barkley and Shaq are like, they called the cops, like they had the LAPD come. I was watching the end of that game. Things were getting chirpy. Obviously, you had Ariza get tossed. Blake Griffin had his leg thing ripped off. He pegged Eric Gordon on an out of bounds play. Arlington Rivers was chirping. There was a lot going on. And then just the NBA is prime time entertainment at this point.
Yes.
Chris Paul brought them through a secret passage or shit. Like, what is going on? Like, what kind of maze is this? And then JJ Redick tweeted, like, I might have to go on a podcast to talk about the schematics of the Clippers locker room. Like, absolutely crazy. I don't think there's been any fines or suspensions yet, right? That's just been
not yet. Probably today.
Still
though.
Looking into it, right? The only good thing was there was no altercation in Rockets.
Yeah.
There was no actual altercation, even though a first report said that James Harden and Chris Paul got in a fight. I don't know if that was later debunked or whatever, but they said they had a heated exchange. Which I don't like hearing that. That worries me. But just Chris Paul being upset and wanting to go say more. James Harden's probably just trying to be the mediator and say it's not worth it. But they all rolled to the locker room. They didn't even bring PJ Tucker though.
I would have definitely brought that.
That's how you know they weren't going to really fight. Because if you're going to fight, you're bringing PJ Tucker. If you're really just not going to go fight, you'll go with whoever else you brought.
Yo, did you hear the part about Clint Capella?
Oh yeah, he was a diversion, right? He knocked on the front door while they were coming.
And they just shut the door in his face. And then I guess he went back to the locker room and he's wondering if he did enough to back up his team. So I thought that was pretty funny.
Oh, God, hilarious! It's crazy. This is probably the first time you've ever heard anything like this too. I've never heard of a team trying to sneak into another team's locker room.
I think the secret passage,
especially a regular season game.
Yeah, the secret passage is what makes it a difference. I mean, guys wait outside the locker room for other guys all the time. They never do anything. They just talk shit. And I think it's funny. And the funny thing is, this is possibly a first-round playoff series we could see. Like, it's not out of the realm to see, a 2-7 matchup or something like that with these two teams.
I wouldn't mind. One, and Clipper fans, I'm sure you're happy that your team won. Don't put any stake into it because, again, whenever you beat a team who's missing one of their key players and possibly the league MVP and James Harden, you have to take that into account. Because the Clippers, they'll probably get swept, maybe win one game in a 7-game series against the Rockets.
Yeah, they might give us some more headlines, though. But what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on, obviously Chris Paul played on the Clippers last year. And, this is rare to see a guy leave the team. And then when he comes back, there's just a ton of tension. Even somebody, for example, like DeMarre Carroll, he's not a big player, but a lot of things came out over the summer that things in Toronto didn't work out right. He goes back to Toronto. It's all hugs and fun. Chris Paul goes back to the Clippers and it's just a brawl. Like they're ready to fight. Nobody's getting along. It's specifically, it seemed like Austin Rivers, Blake Griffin have not a good relationship with Chris Paul.
Yeah, looking at my notes, because this was something I wanted to bring up, and you're spot on, Nick. With DeMar DeRozan, obviously last year they say he's a ball stopper. Him and Lowry played too much isolation. They only played between the two of them. When your all-star stays with your team, it kind of eases the players around you. I think if Chris Paul stayed, obviously none of these tensions are up. But I'm sure Blake Griffin, who re-signed, probably felt a little bit betrayed. They had that pitch to keep DeAndre in LAC. They were Lob City. They were always like right on the cusp. And I'm sure Blake Griffin, probably in a delusional state, thinks they could still compete if Chris Paul had stayed. So I'm sure he's just kind of bitter that they lost, obviously, one of the best top 3 point guards in the league currently. And then Austin Rivers, I know that article came out about Chris Paul not liking Austin Rivers and thinking Doc gave him like extra playing time when he probably shouldn't have, or whatever the case was. I can't remember the article verbatim. But I'm not surprised that they don't have a good relationship, because it kind of always seemed like they weren't so friendly with one another. Yeah. Austin Rivers chirping.
Yeah, it seems like Trevor Ariza and Austin Rivers, from the most recent reports, are the ones that have caused the most problems. Austin Rivers wasn't even playing. He's just chirping from the bench. Ariza, I guess, was the one who was just super pissed, and James Harden and Chris Paul kind of went with him to calm everything down. At least that's what reports are saying. So interesting to see what happens after all of this. And I don't know if you saw the rumor. It was from Stephen A. Smith, so I'll take it with 6 grains of salt. DeAndre Jordan wants to get traded to the Rockets.
I saw that too. Well, there was a post-game interview from Chris Paul. I don't know if you saw that. And they were asking him, do you talk to anyone on the Rockets still? Or on the Clippers still? And he goes, I talk to DJ. I talk to DJ every day.
Damn.
And you're like, oh. And he goes, I think right after that, the next question was who should the Clippers run their offense through? And he goes, Lou Williams. Completely just throwing shade at Blake Griffin. But the DJ comment was interesting. And then the next day, Nick, what you just said, Stephen A. was like, DeAndre wants to go to the Rockets. I wouldn't. Clint Capella is just as good. It's the same things. There's no point trading for DeAndre.
Yeah, Capella, you could definitely argue, probably has a higher upside too.
Yeah, and DeAndre may be a little bit better at running the floor. He's a little bit quicker. But Capella does the job just as fine.
Yeah. And DeAndre probably a little bit more physical, but not a big deal, especially for what the Rockets are trying to do. But we'll touch on 2 more incidents that happened this week. Kyle Lowry and Ben Simmons, both ejected, both had things to say to each other. It looked like Lowry said to meet him outside the locker room or something along those lines. Pretty much to paraphrase, Ben Simmons was like, I'm not taking shit from anybody. They're just trying to test me because I'm a rookie. And Lowry was pretty much like, he must think that he's something. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, did Kyle Lowry also wait out in the locker room? He waited for Ben Simmons, and no one, Ben Simmons never showed up. Well, first of all, Kyle Lowry, you would not want to mess with Ben Simmons. I'm just saying Ben Simmons for the fact that he's a better fighter, but 6'10" versus 6'3", who am I taking in a fight? I'm going to take the guy who's got height and reach on the little guy, and that's not even being disrespectful. That's just if anyone taller than me wants to fight me. If you wanted to fight me, Nick, you're bigger than me in muscle and height. I wouldn't want to fight you. I don't like fighting people bigger than me. It just doesn't normally go well. You got the reach and everything else. But I agree with Ben Simmons to a degree. When you're a rookie and you're obviously in the conversation of Rookie of the Year, you have all these expectations on your career. You're compared to LeBron James already and certain things like that. Certain all-stars and superstars are going to want to come at you and test you. We saw it with Lonzo Ball the first couple of games, couple of weeks of the season. Everyone went at him. And Ben Simmons, just certain people are going to come at him. It's just how it goes.
Yeah. Honestly,
I'm glad he stood up for himself. That's what you got to do.
I'd love to see them fight especially after you describing it. 6'10" Ben Simmons, he's not a small dude either. He's not one of these frail, small rooks. He's a filled out dude. He would definitely do some damage. So, but I like the fact that Simmons is stepping up for himself, and I think it's funny that Lowry's like, oh, he must think he's something. Yeah, he's probably going to win Rookie of the Year and have a really good NBA career. So I do think he's something.
And didn't Lowry only shoot 3 for 16 that game?
He probably did. I didn't watch that one.
I can't remember. I think it might have been the game before, but I know he hasn't been shooting decent like that well these last few games since coming back from the that scary fall he had.
Yeah, true. Exactly. And I mean, and we've kind of not talked about it because DeRozan's just been a monster. All right. And then moving on to an actual incident leading up to all this, we did have some physical contact. Aaron Afflalo took his 12 minutes per game, punched Belijenca in the face, and then he went and put him in a headlock. Both guys ejected. What are your thoughts on this one? Actually, some punches thrown.
Yeah, great job of pronouncing the last name. I know you got to
I
look that
try.
up. It's funny though, listening to the broadcast last night. I guess the Orlando Magic's PA guy was messing up every single like European name the Timberwolves had, and the Timberwolves announcers were like, "We got to go give him some help because he's just having a really tough time tonight." Because he was pronouncing like every name like 3 different ways, like he just didn't know how to do it.
It's tough.
Yeah, but I was watching that game live actually when it all went down. Um, they were chirping a few possessions before. Afflalo didn't like how aggressive Belly went for a rebound, and they exchanged some words. And then, if anyone's seen the highlight, just go to OTG or Full Access Hoops. I'm sure it's retweeted on one of those accounts. And he threw a haymaker.
He definitely did. He pulled up, he pulled back, and he definitely was pissed. Like, I was surprised. I was going back and forth between that and the Pelicans and Celtics game. And, like, I noticed that they were getting a little chippy, but I didn't think it would get to that fast.
No, it was definitely surprising, especially because they weren't even involved in that play. Like they were right there at the free throw line, and the follow was just like, all right, I've had enough.
Yeah,
And he
he
threw
must have
that
just had
punch,
a
and then
bad day.
I don't even think Belly should have been ejected because all he
Yeah.
did was after the punch was thrown and a follow leaned forward, he just put him in a headlock to stop whatever was going on. He wasn't being that physical. Actually, I think he just got ejected obviously because they both scuffled. So you don't want to have one guy in to maybe have someone else rebuttal. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah. I agree, though. I think actually, after watching it multiple times, I'm surprised they did eject him because he really just tried to, break the situation down. He didn't he could have easily put him in a headlock and started punching him in the ribs if he wanted to. Like, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, he could have
he was just
definitely
saying he was
punched him.
just grabbing them and been like, all right, like I'm gonna hold you until this is over.
Yeah. So, but I don't know if the fights are going to calm down. On Monday night alone, I guess tensions have just been high. There was 21 techs, 5 ejections, and then I don't know if you saw any of the Knicks and Nets game. During the third quarter, there was 27 fouls called in one quarter. So, I
I
mean,
didn't know there was
it's
that
been
many fouls.
yeah,
That's
it's been
wild.
a crazy it was a crazy Martin Luther King Day. So, but moving on to some other crazy rumors, and we talk about the Cavs, it seems like every week. But LeBron James is on that team. They're one of the most popular teams, so they're going to get plenty of headlines. And this week, it's about the players complaining. There's reports of saying the rotations are awful. Kyrie's D is insanely better than Isaiah Thomas's. The Isaiah Thomas saying the team doesn't practice, and then inside reports saying the team just needs a break and a break from each other. They need all-star breaks so they can just kind of separate for a while. What are your thoughts on the situation in Cleveland?
I mean, things have definitely gotten rocky fast because there was just that video. What was it? Was it New Year's of LeBron James, Isaiah Thomas, and Dwayne Wade all dancing together?
Oh yeah,
Wasn't that like and they all looked happy and they looked like this could be like the not a big three, but a little three or whatever for Cleveland. Obviously, things are not good. I'm surprised Kevin Love is at least on the opposite side of this conversation where he's not the issue to the media.
good for him.
Isaiah Thomas is getting Isaiah Thomas is getting way too much blame for the defensive issues because the fact of the matter is we all know Isaiah Thomas isn't a good defender to start with, and he isn't the reason the Cavs defense was bad in November or December. So to say it's Isaiah Thomas's fault is extremely it's wrong. It's just wrong. It's not his fault. And the issue is with Isaiah Thomas, unless he's scoring 25 to 35 points a game, he isn't worth a lot. And that's because defensively he gives up so much. So unless
Yeah.
Isaiah Thomas is putting up big numbers, he's really not that productive of a starter. And he might actually have to be a bench player for the Cavs this season.
I think that's actually something I've been thinking about in my head moving forward. I just think Isaiah Thomas is best off as a six-man type, and not just for the Cavs, but in general. I think a lot of credit goes to Brad Stevens doing a great job hiding him last year defensively. They also had a lot of plus defenders. We talked about this last week on the outlet. Cleveland just doesn't have a lot of plus defenders. A lot of these guys can't even handle their dude one-on-one, let alone help their teammates. So I think there's just a lot of issues like that. And I didn't mention this too. There's also a lot of reports the Cavs players telling the front office they need to make moves, they need to make more trades. What are your thoughts on that?
LeBron James, you signed the extension yet? That's the only thing I would say. If anyone says we gotta make a trade, I'd be like, I'm not building for now if I don't have
Commitment.
the best player in the world for the next 2 years tops. Like, if LeBron wants to sign, even if LeBron wants to sign just a 1 year extension, make it worth it for me to go out there and make a trade to go after like at least one more run. Like, you can't trade that Nets pick, and you can't trade. I know Isaiah Thomas. People are saying even trade him, but like I can't trade Isaiah Thomas either unless I know something in return that's not going to leave as well. Like getting DeAndre Jordan. What's the purpose of that too? You're going to trade for DeAndre to lose DeAndre and LeBron possibly? Like it's a very fine. It's a tightrope right now. Like they're walking across a tightrope between two skyscrapers. You can't just blow it up, and you can't just make a trade to try and compete now when you have so much uncertainty in the future. And the more you lose, like right now, like if you had to ask LeBron James right now, is he staying in Cleveland? Outernally, he might say, "Yeah, I'm staying." Internally, he's probably saying, "Hell no, I ain't staying here." Not after these last 2 weeks, we don't have a chance.
Yeah, especially I think reports came out with his teammates complaining about him or something like along the last week or two.
Yeah, he's fit. He only passes for assists. He knows will be assists or whatever.
Yeah, so I think that obviously you don't want to do that to the best player, and I agree. I think with Isaiah Thomas, people are saying to trade him. Like, who's going to take Isaiah Thomas in his contract? I guess he's an expiring, but like then you're not going to probably want to sign him to a big contract next year. So there's a lot of question marks with him. The only like low key positive about maybe trading for DeAndre, other than the fact of losing the pick, would be able if you could dump Tristan and Shumpert's contract, because then you'd have them off your books and they'd kind of open you up a little bit. But still, you're giving up a pick, and then you're still taking the risk of I still have to re-sign DeAndre Jordan next year. So like the whole Cavs money situation is a complete mess, and the fact they don't know what LeBron's doing makes it even worse. And I don't know what they're going to do. Part of me thinks that they're just going to make a risky move and just trade the Nets pick or make a big move and try to make a splash. Or part of me thinks maybe they'll just stand pat. But if they stand pat, I mean, I think there's actually a real possibility this year of them not getting to the finals.
Yeah, I'm starting to lean that way too.
They're still my favorite, but I
yeah,
think it's a possibility.
I definitely think now, like in any Eastern Conference Finals, I think it goes at least 6. Or like in years past, you had to say maybe go 6. So I guess you're just changing one word in the conversation. And then now it's, if it's a game 7, can a team upset the Cleveland? And now you're leaning on the side of yes, like a team like the Celtics or even the Raptors right now, who had that monsters comeback against the Warriors, who look like they could be a better matchup against the Warriors than the Cavs, which is funny to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, and like you said about the defenders, this team is just, you watch them against the Warriors the other night, and the first half, they're up by 7 at halftime. Everyone looks engaged. LeBron is playing, LeBron James basketball. Isaiah Thomas was decent in the first half, had a couple oops to LeBron, a couple of nice baskets. Wade had a nice steal and oop to Jeff Green. Things were clicking. And then in the second half, old men versus young guys. That's what it looked like. It looked like a team that just wasn't athletic enough and wasn't in enough shape to keep running the floor. And, the third quarter, the Warriors came out and they do what they always do in the third quarter. They come out, they punch you in the mouth. And then you're sitting there kind of dazed and they kind of start running away with it. Obviously Cleveland made it close till the end. But the Warriors pretty much had that game the entire second half under wraps.
Yeah, and then the Warriors are in a position where they're that much better than the Cavs. They don't really necessarily have to take them serious for the whole game. And that says a lot, especially if they get another matchup in the finals. So
yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what happens in Cleveland, but moving on to another Eastern Conference team who should be getting back one of their key players soon, and that's Jabari Parker. Reports coming out that he'll be back 2 weeks before their All-Star weekend. What are your thoughts on Parker, and what can he bring to the Bucks team that's sitting in the 7th seed, 23-20 right now?
He brings him a lot. I think he probably starts off on the bench at first, maybe for a while. He might come off, with 20 minutes off the pine, only because I don't know, who do you want to put on the bench in the starting lineup?
I think you start him off on the bench. You start him. You want to ease him back in, especially off a torn ACL.
Yeah, right. But it's big time. I mean, we saw last year how good the Bucks were without Middleton and when they were relying heavily on Antetokounmpo and Parker to run the show. Those two in the fast break were extremely fun to watch.
Yeah.
And honestly, Jabari Parker looked like he was going to be an all-star, a future all-star in the league last year. He was fantastic. His step back was really impressive. The only thing I hope is because it's the second knee surgery is that he doesn't lose too much explosiveness, and that this isn't, the start of like a Derrick Rose chain of injuries. That this is just, maybe this is the last one, and we can start to get back to having a healthy Jabari, because the Bucks could use him, because they're just so mediocre. They're 23-20, and they could definitely use some more offensive pop.
He's a really interesting guy, and having obviously his best season last year, 26-2, 49% from the field, 36% from three. I think what makes it so intriguing, I believe he's a restricted free agent at the end of the year. So do the Bucks kind of want to give him that qualifying offer and try to, match a deal, or will somebody throw him a big contract? And I think, for him, he's probably really eager to get back because he wants to get that money this summer.
I mean, if he comes back, Nick, and he averages, let's say, I don't want to even I don't want to say too high, but let's say he averages 18-6, all right, and he shoots, 44 and 35. As long as he shows that he's not as long as he shows that he is still the Jabari Parker we saw from last year in some kind of sense, because we know that even when he comes back, there's going to be probably another month after that where he's just not going to be fully in game shape, maybe even longer. We saw with Paul George, he came back from that gruesome leg injury. Even though it's an ACL, it still takes some time. But I think it wouldn't be outlandish for a team to offer him max money. Like a team for example, your Nets. If they wanted to try and go after a young guy, I wouldn't be surprised if they offered him max money, because they've been looking for an Otto Porter Jr. I know they got Allen Crabbe off the trade, but they keep looking for these young players. Jabari Parker would be another one for them to look at.
Yeah, Parker definitely be a guy. I think, the Nets would look at him and a couple teams would. And the Bucks are obviously going to be in an interesting situation with obviously picking up Bledsoe this year. Then they're going to have to worry about Giannis's contract eventually. So there is some question marks if they want to throw big money at him. But, like we always say, we want to get out of here with something fun. So Kory and I are going to give you our low-key disappointing team of the season. Now, this isn't the most disappointing guys. This is just guys that are personally just disappointing us.
I like it.
All right, you want to go first?
Low-key disappointed.
You want to go first? Or you want me to start off?
I'll start first with one of my disappointing teams. Evan Dial, if you're listening, it's the Charlotte Hornets. I thought they were going to be a lot better this year. I thought they were going to be a 6 seed or a 5 seed. And I thought heavily because I thought Kevin Walker was going to be really good, which he has been. I thought Dwight Howard was going to look better, which he has. It's just the fact that everyone else just doesn't. Malik Monk doesn't even play anymore, really. Jeremy Lamb has been solid when Batum was out, but now Batum is back, and Batum is kind of trash. And then, the bench is just kind of horrid between Michael Carter-Williams Jr. and Kaminsky is kind of so fluctuating as a player. Cody Zeller's missed time. They're disappointing. And the East was kind of wide open this year for certain teams, and they just squandered an opportunity.
Yeah, it's even more wide open right now. I think going to the season, we thought, some of these other teams would be a little bit more consistent. And the Hornets, having a team that's been together for a little bit of time now would do a little bit better. See, what I did for my disappointing team, I put a team together. So I got 5 players for you.
Okay.
So point guard, Ricky Rubio, career low in assists, 4.7 assists a game. He's never been under 7 assists in his career. He's shooting around 40% from the field. Avery Bradley, another guy who's been struggling. He's shooting around 40% from the field, 2 turnovers a game. And I think a lot of the plus minus on off numbers are not in favor of Bradley as well. A guy you just mentioned for me, Allen Crabbe, 38% from the field, 36% from 3. He's only raised his points per game about 1 point. For a guy getting paid 18 plus mil a year, he's got to be better. Carmelo Anthony, another guy. All these guys are shooting bad percentages. Melo's shooting around 40%. Career low in assist, 1.5 assists, and you could argue this is the best teammates he's ever had. He's not doing a good job passing the ball. And Joseph Nurkic. I thought Nurkic would explode like he did at the end of last season, and just really hasn't been that case. And honorable mention, hate to say this, but my guy Brook Lopez.
Ooh. All right, so now that you got a team, I want to redo this because it's funny, the Ricky Rubio one. The other night when they played the Pacers, They literally gave him a wide open free throw line jumper,
He turned it down.
and he clanked it.
Oh,
No,
wow.
he clanked it. He had the ball at the 3-point line. He even dribbled up, Nick, and no one picked him up, and they just stared at him and let him shoot it, and he missed it. And that's just how Ricky Rubio's season has been. Sheesh.
Yeah.
My disappointing player, point guard wise, would be Jamal Murray.
Yeah.
It's just so frustrating. One night he drops 21, 25, and then last night I think he had like 7, and then the other night he had 11. It's just so random, like how his jump shot. I think he's shooting like 36% from the field, so he hasn't been good. Shooting guard, KCP, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope for the Lakers. Obviously, he's making $27 million a year. He's been in and out of jail. I didn't even know that for the longest time, that he was in jail and coming out just for like what?
That's so strange. Yeah.
And what a privilege to be, rich and famous, I guess, that you can go to jail, but you get to come out just to play.
I know,
your
like, what
game.
is that? Like, no regular person is getting to leave jail and go back. Like, what? I get he plays for the Lakers, but he broke his probation. He should have went to jail. Like, what?
Yeah, and he's still getting paid. This is the craziest thing. So he's making millions from jail. Wild.
Like, bro, buy a freaking Uber. Like, get a taxi. You're making mad money because his original arrest was on a DUI. Like, now you're balling. You have no excuses.
Yeah, that's one of the weirdest stories too that kind of flew under the radar for a while this season. For small forward, Wilson Chandler. So I have 2 Denver Nuggets. Wilson Chandler, I don't know what happened to him offensively.
He's been off.
He's been terrible. I don't think he's scored double digits. I think maybe once in the last 11 games, if I recall what I was looking at the other night. So he's been bad, obviously. And then power forward, I would agree with you on Melo. The assist numbers aren't up. The rebounding numbers are And then scoring wise, he still takes those horrendous, Melo possessions that we talked about. What was it, last episode or the episode before on the podcast?
Last episode. Yep.
Yeah, there's those Melo possessions where he's going to take a bad shot, and you think with age comes wisdom, not necessarily from Melo and his isolations. And then center. I would go with Nurkic too, actually, because last night I finished 40 points out of first place, Nick.
Damn.
And the only reason I finished with 40 is because Nurkic gave me 0 points.
Yeah,
because he didn't play.
He had 0?
I think he had 0, unless he played later in the game. When it was the third quarter, he had 0, and I was extremely angry because I had Cousins. No, I didn't have Cousins. I had Davis and a bunch of other guys. And I was I had Davis, Marcus Smart, Kyrie, and Marcus Smart had his first 30-point FanDuel game in 2 weeks. And I was just like, this is going to be a great night. And then this guy doesn't even play.
Only if you swap Nurkic for Bismack Biyombo.
Yeah, and I Biyombo in a different lineup, which was really upsetting.
Yeah, it's a struggle. I played one lineup yesterday. I think I had Biyombo, I had Kyrie, I had some good, and Devin Booker. But actually, thanks to Harris, he helped me put the lineup together. And it just didn't hit the cusp. Fantasy is one day you're on point, one day, you could get that one guy who just screws you.
Oh, I was wrong. Nurkic ended up finishing with 24, but still he didn't. He had 0 at halftime.
What was his price tag? Was pretty high too. Not super high, but medium.
Yeah, it was $7K.
Yeah, that's no joke. So definitely. And if you want to catch out daily fantasy stuff, you can check out Kory on OTGbasketball.com. He writes some FanDuel articles once in a while. And on the rarest occasions, I might throw a fantasy article up there. Also, check out all the OTG pods on the OTG network. A ton of pods, almost too many for me to name. But as always, you can listen to us on Blog Talk Radio, iTunes, and OTGbasketball.com. Thank you, Kory, and thank you, everybody, for listening.
Peace.